Today we're getting into something really fascinating and honestly sometimes pretty frustrating about being human, our choices.
Hmm.
Like, why do we sometimes make decisions that just seem to go completely against what we think we want?
Right.
Or why do certain things in life feel, almost like we're stuck on repeat, like destiny?
Exactly.
We're diving deep into how our inner world, especially the parts we don't really see, might actually be, well, writing the script for our lives.
It's something we've definitely seen again and again when looking into how people operate, these moments that just make you scratch your head. So think about this scenario we've examined. There's this guy, right? Had what sounds like a perfect chance with his first love, beautiful, wanted to be with him, everything you'd think someone wants,
The dream situation, basically.
pretty much.
Mm.
But he doesn't choose her. Nope. Instead, he goes on like over 30 blind dates.
30, wow.
Yeah. And he ends up marrying someone completely different, someone he met on one of those dates. And get this, someone he was actually really disappointed by when he first met her. He probably even hoped she wasn't the person he was there to see.
Okay, that's unexpected. So
Right.
why, when people asked him, why her and not the first love?
He kept saying the same thing over and over with this sort of like resigned feeling. He'd just say, "This is fate."
This is fate. It sounds a bit like a cop-out, doesn't it? Or maybe an excuse.
Well, it could sound that way on the surface. But what our investigation suggests is that it's often expressing something deeper, a genuine feeling that the choice wasn't entirely his conscious decision.
So why would someone feel like their own choice wasn't really theirs? That it was destiny pulling the strings?
Because, in a very real psychological sense, the him that makes conscious choices, the part he's aware of, wasn't really the one calling the shots on that decision. What we see is this underlying principle. Every choice, especially the big ones, is made to get some kind of, let's call it, benefit. Even if that benefit is totally hidden from the conscious mind.
A hidden benefit.
Yeah. Think about, like, trying to figure out a really weird dream. There's a logic there, right? But it's not everyday logic. It's operating on these deeper, symbolic, often unconscious rules.
Oh.
So the real deep dive here is figuring out what that hidden unconscious benefit was for this guy. It's not that his choice was irrational. The rationale was just buried.
So for this classmate, what was the hidden logic then? What was the subconscious trying to achieve by pushing him away from the goddess, the ideal woman, and towards someone he was initially disappointed by?
Well, you have to look at what the alternative felt like inside. When he seriously thought about a future with his beautiful first love, this person he really put on a pedestal, he anticipated this overwhelming, really awful internal feeling. He actually described it as intense self-abasement.
Self-abasement, like feeling worthless.
Exactly, like this constant grinding feeling of not being good enough, always falling short next to her perceived perfection, it felt like. Like a poison was his term for it. Something he just couldn't stomach day in, day out.
Wow, that's strong.
It is. So his subconscious, sensing this like really deep discomfort, this potential internal toxicity, basically flagged it as a massive threat. So avoiding that specific feeling became this incredibly powerful, though totally unconscious, driver for his actions.
Like an internal alarm system going off.
You got it. The psyche just instinctively veered away from that particular kind of pain.
Okay, so the goddess triggers this deep fear, this feeling of inadequacy. So how did being with his actual wife compare? What was the hidden benefit there that maybe canceled out the pain from the first love?
Well, with his current wife, that specific, really sharp feeling of self-abasement, it just wasn't there. The whole dynamic was different.
How so?
Our research indicates that in this relationship, he could, maybe without even realizing it, establish a sense of, well, psychological superiority.
Superiority? You mean like looking down on her?
It's not necessarily about being intentionally cruel or mean, though sometimes, yeah, it can manifest in behaviors like putting the partner down. But from the subconscious viewpoint, it's more about finding a situation where the psyche feels safer, more in control, where it doesn't feel so vulnerable, so less than.
Ah, okay, so it's like a defense mechanism.
Exactly. A defense mechanism playing out in the form of a major life choice. If I feel superior, even subtly, then I can't really feel that crushing self-abasement at the same time, can I? They kind of cancel each other out.
Right. A way to avoid the poison.
Precisely. And it gets even more complicated, more layered, because there were likely external benefits too.
Like what?
Well, think about it. This classmate might have gotten a certain kind of sympathy from people around him. Friends might look at his situation, knowing about the first love, and think, oh, poor guy. He married her. He really could have done better.
I see. So people feeling sorry for him actually boosted his ego in a weird way.
In a weird way, yes. That external validation, that idea that he was the one who settled, it subtly reinforces his own sense of worth compared to his situation. It helps push back against that feeling of worthlessness the goddess brought up. It's a strange kind of psychological math, I know.
It sounds incredibly complex, this whole internal negotiation.
It really is. And what's kind of amazing, almost funny in a dark way, is how the subconscious seems to have, like, solved multiple problems at once with this one choice.
How do you mean?
Well, it avoided the daily poison of feeling worthless. Check. It found a relationship dynamic where feeling superior, or at least not inferior, was possible. Check. And based on some things we've seen discussed, it might have even allowed him to occasionally satisfy his desire for beauty elsewhere, maybe through affairs or something, without being tied to the source of his deepest insecurity every single day.
So when he says this is fate, he's not really talking about stars aligning or anything external. He's describing the pull of this hidden internal logic.
That's exactly it. This is often where that feeling of fate comes from.
So it's not magic, it's mechanics.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Mechanics happening below the surface. Think about that famous idea from Carl Jung. Your subconscious guides your life, and you call it destiny.
Right.
When we make a choice consciously, like what to have for lunch, we know we're choosing, we weigh the options, we feel like we're in the driver's seat. I decided, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
But when a choice is driven by these really deep, often painful, unconscious needs, like the desperate need to not feel worthless, that whole decision-making process isn't visible to our conscious mind while it's happening. So the choice feels like it just happens to us,
Right.
or like we were pushed towards it.
And then later you look back.
Exactly. Later, when you see where you ended up, you think, well, how did I get here? It must have been fate. Because you couldn't see the hidden current that was actually steering the ship the whole time.
That feels a little unsettling. Like, if our subconscious is this huge invisible force just running the show, are we just puppets then? Is there any way to actually have agency? Can we change this destiny that seems to be written by a part of us we don't even know?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer is yes,
Yeah.
absolutely yes. But the agency comes through awareness.
Awareness.
Yeah. This is the power behind that other crucial insight, also often linked to Jung. When the subconscious is made conscious, destiny is rewritten. Think of the mind like that classic iceberg analogy, right? The little tip sticking out of the water. That's your conscious awareness.
Yeah.
Your thoughts right now, your plans for later.
Got it.
But the huge, massive part underwater, the part you don't see, that's the subconscious. All your deep fears, old experiences, learned patterns, hidden drives, it's all down there.
Okay.
And as long as that massive part stays hidden, it steers the iceberg your life. You end up in places maybe bumping into the same problems without really knowing why, because the steering mechanism is invisible.
Right. Driven by the hidden part.
Exactly. So psychology or therapy or even just really dedicated self-reflection is about shining a light down there, or illuminating that submerged part, bringing those hidden drives, those fears, those complex strategies like seeking superiority to avoid abasement, up into the light where you can actually see them.
So just knowing about it changes things. Is awareness enough?
Knowing is the crucial first step. It's like finally seeing the hidden current.
Yeah.
Once you see it, you understand why you were drifting that way. It stops being some mysterious fate and becomes, cause and effect. Understandable.
Okay.
For our classmate, once he connected the dots, realizing his choice wasn't fate, but this deep unconscious strategy to dodge unbearable pain, the whole story changed for him.
How?
He stopped seeing himself as just a victim of circumstance, of destiny. He starts seeing the pattern inside himself. Now, does that instantly fix the underlying issue, the self-abasement? No, of course not. That takes work.
Right. Understanding where it came from, challenging it, so you can make different choices going forward.
Potentially, yes. Choices that hopefully align better with what you consciously want, because you understand the hidden forces that used to dictate everything. It's like realizing you've been taking this long, winding path through the woods because you thought there was a monster off the trail. Once you see the map clearly, maybe see there's no monster, you can choose a more direct route, or at least understand why the old path felt so inevitable.
That really reframes everything. So this deep dive basically shows that the real key to understanding our lives and why things sometimes feel fated is it's all internal.
Absolutely. What we've explored here really points to a few core insights that keep popping up. First, the inner world really does shape the outer. the script for your life. It's mostly being written by your internal state, especially your subconscious imagination, not just by external events.
Okay, inner dictates outer. What else?
Second, listen really closely to repeated phrases. When you read something over and over and it's like, that's just my luck. Why does this always happen to me? Or like, this guy, this is fate. It's like a little signpost. Third, remember that every choice, no matter how weird or illogical or even self-sabotaging it looks from the outside, is serving some kind of hidden benefit for some part of you. Always. If a decision makes zero conscious sense, the answer isn't that the person's just broken or irrational. It just means you haven't found the unconscious reason yet. The hidden payoff that, to the deeper mind, made perfect sense at the time.
Like finding the hidden logic.
Exactly. It's like, finding out the person who compulsively straightens pictures feels the tiny bit less anxious when they do it. The logic is there, just operating by different rules. Yep, even that decision to, I don't know, suddenly buy a banjo. Probably a hidden benefit in there somewhere. We just haven't found it yet.
Huh. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And it actually feels really empowering somehow. It pulls the power away from some vague external fate and puts it back in our hands if we're willing to look inward.
That's the core of it, because if you can start to see the inner author writing your story, you gain the power to maybe pick up the pen yourself and start making some edits.
That's not about blame, then.
Not at all. It's about understanding the system, the mechanics of your own mind. So maybe the next time you catch yourself saying, oh, that's just how I am, or you feel stuck in some loop thinking, why do I always do this? Or even just thinking about a past choice that still puzzles you.
Yeah.
Maybe just pause and ask yourself, is that really destiny talking?
Oh.
Or is that my subconscious, the hidden author, just clearing its throat, maybe revealing a bit of the script? What hidden need or benefit might that pattern or that choice have been trying to meet?
Start looking for our own iceberg.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Start looking for what's under the surface, because understanding that is the first and honestly the most important step towards maybe, just maybe, rewriting your own story.